Good evening, everybody. Today was Museum Day, and that might be surprising for some of you that know us because neither one of us is really
Yeah.
like a museum person. But when we talked to our travel agent Leah, when she showed us the trip, there were two museums that she booked for us that we were actually really excited about, and those were both today. So we got up. A little bit later, we slept in a little bit. We went to Tate again, quickly becoming a favorite.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Definitely, if you're in DC, they've got like a dozen locations, so there's always one somewhere. But they're really good. And then we went firstly to the Museum of the Bible.
Which was amazing. It was not at all what I was expecting. It was huge. It was 7 floors, 7 stories high.
Basement and then 6 upper floors.
They had a special exhibition called All Creation Sings, which we added on. And it was like a big, kind of a cinematic experience, but it was 3D. Like it was all around you.
Yeah, so it was this room that they had projectors. It was all white walls. And then they had probably, 15 projectors or more around this, maybe, probably 30 foot wide by 50 feet long. It was a big room. And then they had some like pillars in the middle that had like reflective surfaces on them. So like metallic reflective surfaces. So they just projected this very like orchestral soundtrack with a kind of spoken dialogue going from the creation to, fall and everything. So it was really good.
It was very good. And then we just kind of explored all the different floors that had it was all about like the history of the Bible, the impact of the Bible.
They had one floor that had some presentations. One was on like events in the Old Testament, events in the New Testament. We didn't get to see either of those. But then there was kind of like it was a built out like Broadway sets almost, but you walked through all of it. So like it was Nazareth as it would have been in Jesus's time. And so like they had little staged areas of like what a home would look like and, all of these different things like a masonry.
If any of you have been to the Ark Encounter, it was very reminiscent to me of that. It was like just replicas of everything, like very immersive.
Yeah, so they had that. Just a ton of different exhibits of, they had one floor was all about like the actual history of the Bible. So, going from its earliest manuscripts to, talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls and
which they had
all of the different people who had efforts in translating the Bible into different languages. They had one room that was really cool it was a room basically full of bookshelves, and it had represented every language of the world, and then each language had a color to it, and the color legend was basically the level of progress that they had made on translating that particular language and translating the Bible into that language, all the way from not started all the way through fully translated. And if it was fully translated, they had a copy or a spot for a copy of it. So they didn't have a copy of every language that had been fully translated, but they had a lot. And they had a restricted section, like they had a restricted languages section for languages that they were actively translating, but where the gospel was restricted or banned, illegal. And so like they try and keep the translation progress on the down low so that they can continue working on it without alerting authorities that it exists, basically.
Yep. So that was the Museum of the Bible, which was really awesome. And then after that, we went straight to the Spy Museum.
International Spy Museum.
Which also was not at all what I was expecting.
No.
I was excited for both of these museums, but I underestimated both of them grossly, I think, because we spent about 3.5 hours at the Bible Museum, which we don't usually spend a lot of time in museums. And then the Spy Museum, we got there and we immediately... You good?
Yeah, you've got some, like, stray hairs that keep tickling my nose.
But the Spy Museum, we walked in and we're like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to spend a lot of time here too.
Yep.
Which we did. We spent about 4 hours at the Spy Museum because you walk in and they give you like a badge, which is like your alias. So you have some interactive things that you do along the museum as well. And I think we read, like, I'm not someone, when I go to museums, who, like, stops and reads everything.
No.
But this museum, I wanted to. Like, it was so cool. They had all the, like, different spy gadgets from different eras of espionage. They had, like, stories of different spies and some of their artifacts.
Stuff like the Revolution, so like
James
Lafayette, and how like we were stealing secrets from the British. So like it was espionage, like different tactics, but also different eras. So like there was Cold War stuff.
Yep. They had World War II stuff.
World War II, Edward Snowden. Like they had a section on that sort of thing. Double Agent. Like it was.
It was extensive. Like so extensive. They have so many artifacts. So many cool gadgets and like hidden cameras and hidden weapons.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I could have easily spent a whole day in there, and they had all the interactive stuff too.
Yep.
So one of my favorite things was they had a whole section on like, it kind of walked you through not just like the history of espionage, but also the process that like the CIA goes through to gain intelligence and stuff. And so a whole section of it was on analyzing the data that they get from whether it be from spies or whatever source.
Yep.
And so they kind of did a whole section on Osama bin Laden trying to capture him.
It was when they got the intel that they found the complex that they thought that he was in.
And then they had an interactive portion of it where you had to be like the analyst and try to analyze all the different data you'd received.
Yep.
And then that got sent to the president, and then he had to make the decision whether they were going to raid or not raid the compound based off of what you analyzed, which obviously they did raid the compound in.
Yeah, they called it I guess they're called red teams, and so basically like you got to play the part of somebody who was trying to so the theory was, this is his complex and he's here, and so we're going to go get him. But then we were playing the part of the red team that was saying like, well, what are the other potential options, and like how confident are we that it's, him or that it's somebody else, like all of those things, trying to make sure that we didn't raid, a civilian complex or anything like that. So they talked about, the differences between, okay, well, this complex's walls are 10 feet tall, whereas everybody else's are 6 feet tall. And then like the entryway leads into this walled corridor that you can't see anything but more walls. And then there's another gate. So like, who could possibly have need of that level of privacy and like all of these different things.
Yeah, it was super it was like video game.
Yeah, it was.
It was a museum, but it also kind of felt like you were walking through a video game because like there were so many things that you could interact with, and you also had your own spy mission that you were kind of doing at different checkpoints along the way, which was cool. Yeah, it was just awesome. I felt like a big kid running around.
It was super cool.
Like
could have spent all day in either of the museums that we went to.
I think both of by the time we got out of the Spy Museum, because we started at the Museum of the Bible at 10, and we went straight from there to the Spy Museum at 2, and we got out of the Spy Museum at 5.
No, like 6.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we went from 10 to 6. So that's what, like 8 hours?
Yeah.
So we spent 8 hours in 2 museums, and I think by the time we got out of there, both of our brains were like
my
mush.
brain is mush.
Because I felt like I was in a history class for 8 hours, but like
so cool.
It was so cool and so fun.
Like they were just 2 of the most well done museums, because like they had all the museum type things, like they had artifacts but just the way that they both laid them out and made them interactive and like I can't. It's hard to describe the way that the Bible Museum was laid out, but it was really cool because they had a lot of artifacts, but they had like if it was letters from people to people, they had two people doing like a live reenactment or reading of those letters, and so you could stand there and like look at the document, but also have it acted out, or like a historical kind of play type thing, or I don't know, just the way that it flowed was really unique to
You weren't
me.
just staring at like
Yeah.
texts and old artifacts the whole time. Like there'd be a little bit of that, and then there'd be something interactive.
Yeah.
And then there'd be a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about the Museum of the Bible that was just a little disappointing was like on the history of the Bible floor, a lot of the older like stones and artifacts weren't actually there.
They were facsimiles.
They were like just
a piece of glass with a picture
of what it looked like
laid on top.
Because they were like either in the British Museum or in Israel or somewhere else. So that was a little disappointing just because like it wasn't the real artifact. So
It's still cool though.
But it was still cool. I've also been to the British Museum, so I was like, oh, so I've probably seen that just several years ago. But for him who hasn't seen any of it, I was like,
it was
well,
really
he
cool.
hasn't. But yeah, it was a fun day.
Pretty much the whole day.
That was pretty much the whole day. We did that, and then we went and ate sushi. Where'd we eat sushi at?
It was Nushi DuPont.
And it was really, really good. We had a dragon roll and a rainbow roll.
A fried dragon roll, a rainbow roll, and a Jedi roll.
Which were all delicious.
Really good.
Oh, and we had some like beef buns.
Beef bulgogi buns. Yep. They were really good.
Love those.
Had crepes. We found a place called Crepe Away. We were super hungry after spending 8 hours in museums.
So we went to Tate for breakfast, and we were smart because we knew we were going to be in the museums all day. So we had a heavier breakfast. We both got a breakfast sandwich at Tate.
As well as the pastry.
And we split a pastry. And like the sandwich that I got was like huge. I didn't even eat all of it.
Yep.
So good thing we did that because we didn't eat again until like 7 o'clock.
And so we didn't take any pictures of food.
So I apologize. Yeah, there won't be any pictures of the sushi or the crepe. It was about the time that I was closing the empty crepe box to throw it away that I realized that I hadn't taken pictures of dinner or dessert.
Yep.
I don't think we really took any pictures today.
I took a few pictures at the Bible Museum.
Okay. Well, that's how good of a day it was.
Yeah.
We just were like...
We were just in it all day, which was
really fun. And then tomorrow, we do the National Mall.
Yep.
And the Smithsonian.
Yep.
And the Holocaust Museum, which is, I think, part of the Smithsonian.
Yeah, I think it's in that same area, I think.
Yeah.
And then we end the day with a reservation at Philomena's, so we're super excited about that. And then, so one of the things that we're planning... so Katie is not an alcohol drinker.
Nope.
She doesn't like the taste of it. I'm pretty picky about the stuff that I like to drink, and it's not stuff that she enjoys, and so she's never really gotten into anything. But in some of the bigger cities in the U.S., one of the things that's kind of gotten popular is what they call like mocktail bars or dry bars, and so there's a couple of brands in the U.S. that make non-alcoholic spirits, and so they're supposedly they taste similar to their alcoholic counterparts, but then they make non-alcoholic cocktails and things like that for people that, for whatever reason, don't want to drink alcohol. Whether it's somebody wants to go out and have drinks on like a Tuesday night and they don't want to be hungover on Wednesday, or just somebody that's not drinking alcohol for whatever reason. So. She brought that up, and so I think we're going to try. There's a really popular one in D.C. called a Binge Bar, I think is what you said.
Binge Bar. The owner had a DUI.
Yep.
And so she went through and stopped drinking, and then decided that she didn't want to completely, like, abandon all of her friends, and so she opened the bar. And like they don't sell anything alcoholic.
Yep,
it's
completely
all
non-alcoholic,
but they have all like the mocktails that you can get. So I'm like, and they have food. Their food looks really good too. Like she tried to make it sustainable and add a food menu as well. So we are gonna try that tomorrow night, I think, after dinner, because it sounds fun.
Yeah, so a little bit of a shorter video today, but it was a ton of fun. If you come to DC and you plan on either of those museums, like, give it more the time than you think you can, because we could have spent more time at the Bible Museum, but we had to get to the Spy Museum. I don't know that I could have spent a lot more time at the Spy Museum just because my brain was
mush. Like, and I
wanted to
read like
everything.
It
was awesome.
And they even had a special exhibit. They had a James Bond exhibit, which I told him there's a James Bond museum in London, which I've been to, which looking at the like exhibit had a lot of the same stuff from the London one. So I was like, well, just go to London and go to the actual James Bond museum someday.
So
that sounded snobby, but
we'll just hop over to London.
We'll just go to the real one. We'll just go to the British Museum and see the real Rosetta Stone. All those things.
You're so spoiled.
I'm just well traveled. I've seen a lot of things.
I know. So
Definitely plan a whole day at the Bible Museum. It was like
Awesome.
extensive.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean,
I guess there's a walking tour of it that it takes at least 3 hours.
Yep.
If you have a tour guide. And that's just like the highlights.
Yeah, so it was amazing. It was really cool. So it was a fun day.
What I thought was really cool is they had the original draft that was written of the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
That's right, yes.
Which was cool.
And
then they also had a whole Billy Graham section with some of
cool.
his stuff, like one of his pulpits.
Large man.
He was very tall. Like they had one of his suits
that.
on a mannequin, and it was like up on a little pedestal, but like not that much off the ground.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we're standing there. I was like, wow, he was really tall, like very tall. I wonder how tall he was. Like at least over 6 foot.
No, he was like 6'4", somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so they had all of those things, and it was cool. Good day.
It was a really fun day. So, gonna go to bed and try and get up early and do them all.
Yep.
So, see y'all tomorrow.